SANDHAN, All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
Good morning, dear friends. Today we have a lecture from SANDHAN, particularly for the students who study in standard 10th, 11th and 12th. Today with me Dr. Manish R. Rawal. He is an associate professor at G.D. Modi Arts College, Palanpur. He has been there for the last 2 decades. He has completed his MA from North Gujarat University and did his doctorate also. He has been teaching commercial communication, English literature and English grammar for the last 2 decades, and he has attended various conferences, seminars, workshops and BISEC programs also. I am Dr. K.S. Bhatt from Arts and Commerce College, Himatnagar. I started my career in 1991 from Arts and Commerce College, Idar, and since 1994 I have been at Arts and Commerce College, Himatnagar. I have also presented papers in national, international seminars and workshops, and I have been teaching English grammar, literature and commercial communication for the last 2 decades. Today's our topic is degrees of comparison and double comparison. So within 1 hour we are going to concentrate on 2 topics. One is degrees of comparison and another a very small but important topic for the school going students, that is double comparison.
Let us first now define adjective. An adjective is a word used to add something to the meaning of a noun.
Yes, Dr. Rawal, we know that when we make a sentence in positive degree, comparative degree or superlative degree, we use adjectives and adverbs. So first of all, we should have some idea about an adjective. The definition that is on your screen. An adjective is a word used to add something to the meaning of a noun. We know that a noun is the name of a person, place or thing. When we add a new word or when we want to add something to the meaning of that noun, whether it is a common noun or any other noun, we use an adjective. For example, he is a teacher. Now here teacher is a noun, that is a common noun, but when we add a word that he is a good teacher, so the word good is here used as an adjective to add something to the meaning of a noun, that is teacher. So an adjective is a word which is used either attributively or predicatively to qualify the noun.
Now let us discuss comparative and superlative forms of adjectives. There are adjectives with 1 syllables. Such adjectives take er and est to form comparative and superlative.
Exactly, Dr. Rawal. We know that when we make a sentence in comparative degree, we have to use a comparative form of an adjective. Now, when we want to make a comparative form of an adjective, we have to follow certain rules. So, the first is when we have a one syllable adjective, and if we want to make the word or use the word in comparative degree, then we have to make the comparative form of an adjective. So, that comparative form can be used by adding er to make comparative and by adding est to make superlative. So, what, dear students, you have to remember is when we have a one syllable word, to make the word or to use the word in comparative degree, we use er, and to make the word superlative degree, we use est. See the example on the screen. Old, older, oldest. In the same way, long, longer, longest. Short, shorter, shortest. Tall, taller, tallest. So, what you have to remember is when we have a one syllable word, by adding er, we can make comparative word, and by adding est, we make superlative word.
There are some adjectives with two syllable. In such cases, we use more and most to form comparative and superlative forms.
Yes, Dr. Rawal, by adding more and most, the two syllable adjectives, they are formed into comparative and superlative form. See the example on the screen. Famous. It is a two syllable adjective. Famous is positive degree. In comparative, it becomes more famous, and in superlative, it becomes most famous. There are certain other words also which can be used in the same way. So, now you have to remember two important points. When we have one syllable word, we use er and est for comparative and superlative, and when we have two syllable word, we use more and most. Got it, dear friends? Now see another slide.
For two syllable adjectives that end in y, we use er and est to form comparative and superlative degree. But here we note that if the adjective ends with y, and if y is followed by a consonant, preceded by a consonant, y is changed into I, and then we add er and est to form comparative and superlative.
Exactly. See, dear friends, on the screen, the word pretty is written there. Now you see the spelling P-R-E-T-T-Y. Now this adjective ends with y. Now when we have such type of words and we want to make comparative and superlative form of this adjective, as my colleague has clarified that y is changed into I, and then er and est is added to make comparative and superlative. See the example on the screen. Pretty, it becomes prettier, so y is changed into I, and prettiest, y is changed into I. So pretty, prettier, prettiest. Dr. Rawal, would you like to add some more examples? For example, heavy.
Yes.
HEAVY.
Then we use I and then ER is added, and in superlative in the same way Y is changed into I and then EST is added to form superlative degree.
So heavy, heavier, heaviest.
Yes.
In the same way, happy is also a word which clarifies very clearly how Y is changed into I and ER and EST is added. Happy, happier, happiest.
There are certain two syllable adjectives, and in such cases we can form comparative and superlative degrees with either form. We can use ER or more or EST or most to form comparative and superlative degree.
Yes. Now earlier we have learned that with ER and EST and more and most, comparative forms are constructed, but there are certain two syllable words or adjectives, we can say, which can be used with ER and more for comparative and EST and most for superlative. See the example on the screen, the word clever. Now it can be used in this way also, clever, cleverer, cleverest, or it can be used in this way also, clever, more clever, most clever. So there are certain two syllable adjectives which can be formed in both ways, with ER and more and EST and most. But in common English, day-to-day English, generally we use clever, cleverer, cleverest. That is most common.
For adjectives with three or more syllables, more and most are used with adjectives.
Yes, see the example on the screen, important. Now here we have more than two syllables. So when we want to make comparative and superlative form of this adjective, we have to add more to make comparative and most to make superlative. Important, more important, most important. For example, beautiful, more beautiful, most beautiful. Would you like to add one or two more examples?
Intelligent, more intelligent, most intelligent.
Yes, handsome for example,
Yes.
more handsome and most handsome. So when we have a word more than two syllable, they are used in comparative and superlative form with more and most.
Now let us discuss about irregular forms of adjectives.
Now in irregular forms, what we have to remember is that mostly the word adjectives can be made with ER and more and EST and most. But sometimes we have irregular forms of adjectives also, and dear students, you have to remember them as you have remembered the regular lexical verbs and irregular lexical verbs. I would like to give an example from verb, that generally to make past form and the past participle form, we add ed to the base form, that is bare infinitive. But all the verbs, they cannot be changed into past and past participle form with ed only. Certain words which are irregular lexical verbs, they are we have to remember them. For example, work, worked, worked. Now it is a regular lexical verb, but for example, speak, spoke, spoken, write, wrote, written. So in verb we have two types of verbs, regular lexical verbs which can be turned into past tense and past participle, with ed. So they are regular lexical verbs and irregular lexical verbs that we have to remember. For example, write, wrote, written. The same is the case with adjectives also. Most of the adjectives, they are one syllable adjectives with er and est, or two syllable or three syllable with more and most. But there are certain irregular adjectives also, and the students, you have to remember them. For example, on the screen we can see good, better, best, bad, worse, worst. They are irregular forms of adjectives for comparative and superlative. There are certain other words also. Dr. Raval, he will add few more words also.
Many, more, most. Even we can say much, more, most. And here bad, worse, worst. Even we can say ill, worse, worst.
Yes. We have another word, little, less, least.
Yes.
For example, far, farther, farthest. So these are the irregular adjectives, and we have to remember them for comparative and superlative degree.
Now let us define adverb. An adverb is a word used to add something to the meaning of a verb, an adjective, or another adverb.
Yes, dear friends, as adverbs they are used, as adjectives they are used in comparative and superlative form. The same is the case with adverbs also. So first we try to understand what is an adverb. An adverb is a word used to add something to the meaning of a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. So adverb can be used